Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the greatest show on Earth.
You're my babe, and I love you so much.
He was a legend, a man who danced with danger, who turned the impossible into magic. For decades, he captivated millions, taming wild beasts with nothing but trust, love, and showmanship. But on one fateful October night, in front of a packed Las Vegas crowd, the curtain fell, not with applause, but with blood. What happened on that stage would change entertainment forever. This is the tragic last moment of Roy Horn, mauled on stage by the very tiger he called family. And before we dive deeper into this chilling story, make sure you subscribe for more real-life tales of beauty, danger, and tragedy. And let us know in the comments if you think Roy's trust in his tiger was love or a fatal mistake. Roy Horn's story began far from the glittering lights of Las Vegas. He was born in post-war Germany in 1944, a time when the country lay in ruins, its cities shattered, its people broken. Childhood for Roy was not one of comfort, but of survival. Yet in the chaos, one thing called to him: animals. Wild, untamed, misunderstood creatures that most avoided. Roy felt drawn to. Where others saw danger, he saw companionship. Where others saw claws and teeth, he saw trust waiting to be earned. As a teenager, he worked on a cruise ship, serving guests, cleaning rooms, doing whatever was needed. But his true secret was extraordinary. Hidden below deck, Roy smuggled aboard a cheetah named Chico, a living predator among the ship's crew and passengers. He cared for it in silence, feeding it scraps, protecting it from discovery. This was not rebellion. This was Roy's heart. His bond with Chico would shape the way he saw all animals for the rest of his life. And it was on that same ship, under impossible circumstances, that destiny found him. He met Siegfried Fischbacher, a young magician who could turn a coin into fire, a scarf into a dove. One was a dreamer of illusions, the other a dreamer of nature. Together, they formed a partnership built on wonder and danger. By the 1960s, Siegfried and Roy were performing in nightclubs and small theaters across Europe. But it wasn't enough. Their ambition burned bigger than the cabaret stages. They wanted the impossible, to create magic that no one else dared attempt. Their answer? Animals. Not rabbits from a hat or doves from sleeves, but lions, leopards, and especially the rare and ghostly white tigers, beasts that symbolize power, fear, and beauty. What began as two young men chasing a dream soon became a phenomenon. By the 1990s, Siegfried and Roy weren't just performers, they were kings. At the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas, their $45 million production stunned the world. Vanishing acts, fire, illusions that defied logic, and at the heart of it all, towering cats with blazing eyes, moving alongside Roy as if they were extensions of his own soul. To the audience, it was magic, a dream come alive in glitter and light. But for Roy Horn, it was more than entertainment. It was family. Every tiger, every lion was a child to him, raised, loved, and trusted as if they were human. And yet, beneath the sequins, the music, and the standing ovations, one truth lingered like a shadow. A tiger is never truly tame. Among Siegfried and Roy's menagerie, one animal stood above the rest. Manticore, a stunning 400-pound white tiger whose presence could silence a crowd with a single step. His striped coat glowed under the stage lights, his movements regal, his roar both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Roy had raised Mantacore from a fragile cub, bottle-feeding him, playing with him, even letting him sleep nearby. To Roy, he was not just an animal, but family, a brother, a son, a lifelong companion. Their bond was so deep that Roy often claimed he could feel what Manticore felt, almost as if they shared one heartbeat. Every night, under the thunder of applause and blinding spotlights, Manticore entered the stage not as a prop, not as a simple part of the act, but as Roy's partner. When the tiger padded onto the stage, the energy in the theater shifted. The audience held its breath, caught between fascination and fear. Roy would beam with pride, repeating his mantra, "Without the animals, there is no Siegfried and Roy." And to him, it was no illusion. The animals weren't just part of the magic. They were the magic. But beneath the glittering costumes and carefully choreographed routines, a silent truth lingered. A tiger is never truly tame. No matter how much love, how many years of training, instincts carved into their DNA remain. They can be managed but never erased. And on the night of October 3rd, 2003, those instincts buried deep within Manticore would surge to the surface. Before thousands of eyes filled with wonder, the unimaginable would unfold. In seconds, the dream would shatter, and the world would watch a nightmare come alive. The Mirage showroom buzzed with energy. Over 1,500 spectators filled the seats, expecting another flawless night of illusions. The music thundered. Spotlights blazed. Roy stepped into the light with Manticore by his side. Dressed in sequins that caught the glow like diamonds, he appeared untouchable, master of magic and beast. But just minutes into the performance, something was different. Mantacore's movements weren't sharp, his responses delayed. His massive head swung slowly, as if distracted. Roy, ever the showman, tried to improvise. He tapped the microphone against Manticore's face, perhaps as a cue. Instead, it was a mistake that would cost everything. Without warning, Manticore lunged. In a single horrifying instant, the tiger clamped his jaws around Roy's neck. The crowd gasped. At first, many thought it was part of the act, a shocking illusion, the ultimate stunt. But then came the blood. Dark red poured onto the stage floor, staining the perfection of the spotlight. The illusion shattered. Manticore dragged Roy across the stage like prey, his teeth sinking deep. Screams erupted from the audience. Crew members charged forward, hitting the tiger, spraying extinguishers, pulling desperately at his massive frame. And through the chaos, one haunting moment, even as life drained from him, Roy whispered with gasping breath, "Don't hurt Manticore." He chose the tiger over himself. Paramedics rushed him from the stage. Blood soaked his sequined costume. The tiger's bite had severed his spine, crushed his windpipe, and torn an artery. On the operating table, Roy's heart stopped. He suffered a massive stroke. Surgeons fought for hours. Against all odds, he survived. But the man who once commanded beasts was forever changed. The Mirage didn't hesitate. Overnight, the curtains closed, the lights went dark, and the $45 million spectacle was gone. Just like that, the biggest act in Las Vegas had vanished. Crowds gathered outside the casino, staring at the empty marquee in disbelief. Inside, the great stage sat silent, the cages and props collecting dust. The roar of the tigers, the gasps of the audience, the thunder of applause. All of it was gone, like a ghost haunting the strip. And at the center of it all was Roy Horn, once the commanding presence in glittering costumes, now confined to a wheelchair. His speech was broken, his movements slowed, his body a shell of what it had been, but his spirit unshaken. What shocked the world wasn't the fall, it was Roy's response. The man who had nearly died in front of thousands refused to place blame. Again and again, in interviews, he looked directly into the camera and said, "Manticore is my baby." He didn't attack me. He tried to save me, audiences recoiled. Could this really be true? A tiger's jaws wrapped around his neck, and yet he insisted it wasn't violence, but instinct. To critics, it sounded like denial. To Roy, it was undeniable truth. He believed Manticore sensed his stroke in that split second, reacting not with fury, but with primal instinct, trying to drag him to safety. And that's what makes this story so haunting. The world saw an attack. Roy Horn saw an act of love, but the result was the same. Siegfried and Roy's reign was over. The end of magic had come, not with applause, but with a roar. The news exploded across the globe. Within hours, every headline carried the same words. Roy Horn, mauled by his own tiger. Television anchors replayed the footage of ambulances rushing to the Mirage. Talk shows debated what no one wanted to admit. Had the dream always been an illusion built on danger? Animal rights activists pounced immediately. "This is proof," they said. "Wild animals have no place in entertainment. You cannot train away instinct to them. The stage had finally revealed the truth, that no amount of sequins, smoke, or music could erase the primal nature of a 400-pound predator. But others saw something different. To Roy's fans, this wasn't just a tragic accident. It was the fall of an empire. Siegfried and Roy weren't just performers. They were Las Vegas. Their show had drawn millions. Their tigers had become icons, and Roy himself was a symbol of magic without fear. And now, that image was shattered. Crowds gathered outside the Mirage, leaving flowers, cards, and photographs. Strangers stood in silence, staring up at the darkened marquee where Siegfried and Roy's names once glowed. The strip, usually alive with neon and noise, carried a strange emptiness. But the image no one could forget, the one burned into memory, was not the standing ovations, not the sparkling costumes, not even the illusions of fire and vanishing acts. It was Roy Horn, lying broken on the stage, blood staining the floor, and his beloved tiger Manticore standing over him. To some, it was the sight of betrayal. To others, it was loyalty misunderstood. And that is what kept the world talking. Not just the attack, but the impossible question it left behind. Was this a tragedy of violence or of love? For 17 years, Roy lived in recovery, cared for by Siegfried. The bond between them never wavered. In 2014, Mantacore died. Roy mourned him as if he had lost a child. Then in 2020, as the world faced a pandemic, tragedy struck again. Roy contracted COVID-19. His body, already weakened by years of injury, couldn't fight. He passed away at 75 years old. Siegfried, his lifelong partner, followed just months later. Roy Horn's life was a paradox. He believed love could conquer instinct, that magic could tame nature. For decades, he proved it, until the night nature reminded us all who holds true power. His last moments on stage weren't just a tragedy. They were a reminder. Beauty and danger are inseparable, and when we walk that line, the cost can be devastating. This was the tragic last moment of Roy Horn. If stories like this move you, stories of beauty, danger, and the delicate balance between humans and nature, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive. And let us know in the comments, do you believe Roy was wrong to trust his tiger, or was it simply destiny?